Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Club at the End of the World. Today, we're going to talk on a number of topics, including updates from the city of Berkeley, which declared a climate emergency earlier this year. We're going to get an update on that. We're going to get an update on Calgary from Miles in Calgary, Canada. And then we're broadcasting from Ohio here, and we're going to give our updates on the Community Cafe and work with the Catholic Church here in Ohio. But we're going to start with our personal updates. So I'm going to go around the room, introduce folks, and ask you to, take a few minutes and give us whatever personal updates you have, if you have any you'd like to share. Starting with Adam in the great state of Washington. Welcome, Adam. How are you doing today? And take it away.
I'm doing great. I've just been writing letters to environmental groups and searching for other people to write specific letters to about using artificial intelligence to help save us. So I do have several questions that I would like to ask you, Jamin, about artificial intelligence when we get to that point. And that's all I have to say right now. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Awesome, Adam. Thank you. All righty. And up next, and we'll get to that when we talk. I'm just going to add that to the agenda here. And then up next is Armando. Armando, good to see you. Take it away, Armando.
Hey, y'all. It's Armando reaching out from Oakland, where the air is poisonous and the mood is climate emergency. Yeah, I'm here just a little stressed by the situation with the fires and the various levels of consequences of those fires. Both my personal life, wanting to be indoors and only being a bike rider, not really wanting to bike outside, and only having an N95 mask that lasts really for like 2 days. Yeah, and I don't know, I guess later I'll talk about the climate emergency campaign update, or should I do it now?
A little later would be great, so we can have it as a proper agenda item. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Armando. And next up is Miles. Take it away, Miles.
Hello, everyone. First of all, yes, just to pause and think about seriousness of what we hear happening in California. Pretty shocking, not pretty shocking, extremely shocking. 40 people killed so far or more, over 100 missing. And how that relates to what I'm going to talk about is I went to a town hall meeting on Saturday. I live in Calgary, Canada. It's a city of maybe close to 1.2 million people. So it's a significant urban center. And the town hall that I was going to was with respect to this city's bid for the Winter Olympics in 2026. And I showed up with my old National Geographic globe with 2 layers of saran wrap on it. I patiently stood or sat in the front row with my hand up, but they never called upon me to make my question and comments with respect to the sensibility of bidding on these Olympic Games when we are facing a climate crisis. So I will talk. They never did come to speak to me, curiously. Nevertheless, somebody did ask me, so what's with the globe? What are you doing here with the globe? And so I told them. My wife said, well, of course they never called upon you to ask your question, because it's not normal to go to a meeting with a globe in your hand. So anyway, I will talk to that later. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Miles. All right. Up next is Jamie. By the way, can you guys see Jamie on the edge of the screen there, or is he off?
Yeah.
I'm really curious to know. You see him? Okay, good.
Don't know us. Come on.
All right. Take it away, Jamie.
You're not shy.
Okay, great to get your updates. I have a couple questions for Adam that we'll get into later about his letter writing campaign. And I've been working on basically just filling up a notebook that I'm carrying with me 24 hours a day and writing ideas and as they come to me. And a lot of the ideas are coming from what we talk about here on these weekly meetings. And I'm preparing for this next 10 days with Jamin and Melissa and my girlfriend Sabrina. She'll be dipping in and out with work. But I'm preparing to get all these notes, so they're out of my head, which is not a good place for anything to be, in the notebook so we can sit down with Jamin and he will take all my random crazy ideas and we're going to come up with a couple different approaches for what's happening here in Ohio with the Catholic Church and everything else. So I'm just kind of brainstorming my way towards my 2-week work session with Jamin and gleaning everything from what you guys talk about, from what Adam, when he sends out videos and things to review, I'm kind of gleaning everything from that to get ready for this next 10-day work session that we're going to be kicking off here. We kicked it off this morning by going to a restaurant facility that we'll talk about later that's going to become an important partner in our quest to have the Catholic Church take the leadership and end world hunger and everything else. So that started this morning, an hour ago. We planted the seed with a senior staff person that we need to talk to the owner of that restaurant. And so this ball is going to start rolling right now. So that's it. That's where I'm at. Next.
And first of all, are you ladies warm enough? Shall I turn up the heat a little?
I'm okay.
We're good.
We're
Yeah.
good? Okay. All right. Very good.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my heart is really out there for all the creatures that are living in these woods and meadows that are burning up. And I'm very present with the orca whales, of course, in my spirit that are suffering right now in the Puget Sound. And they're on their run south now, looking for chum salmon. And we've got these new sonograms in the Salish Sea that are recording now the orca sounds and the shipping sounds. And they're doing research now to see what how the shipping's impacting the orcas. So I'm very much involved with that. I'm working in tandem with Jamin on a new project, Orca Living Mural Project, where we're going to be creating a whole pod with local communities on a beach on Whidbey, and getting that organized now and just put in a grant for funding for that. And we're going to do it anyway, whether we get the funding or not. And I'm also starting to get ready to do my second round of going to grocery stores on the island and upping the ante on the pressure around any grocery stores that are selling the king salmon, which is the orca's food supply. So, and we're very happy to be here in Ohio with our two dear friends, Sabrina and Jamie, starting this whole new campaign here and starting to really co-create this new story for humanity to start living by. So thank you so much, and I pass it now the baton to Sabrina.
Hi. At the moment, I'm just taking in everything and learning. As James said, I will be in and out as my work schedule, depending on that. But I am with Melissa. I am on the issues when it comes to animals and working with animals in the environment, and just, one thing leads to another. So that is where I am at right now, just observing and taking everything in.
Yeah.
Jamin?
Great. Great to have you here, Sabrina.
Yeah.
So Melly and I arrived here in Ohio day before yesterday, and Melly will be here through Friday. I'll be here for a couple weeks, maybe a little longer, because we're working on some very working on some very important projects here. The first one we kicked off a little over a month ago. Jamie and I have been working on reaching out to the Catholic Church, which is Cleveland is a big Catholic stronghold. So we'll give updates on that. And we've got a meeting on the calendar for January 8th with the Vicar General of the Cleveland Diocese. A 1-hour meeting on the calendar. So we're really excited about that. Centered around the Pope's amazing encyclical published in 2015 called Laudato Si. And we'll get into more of that. But the essence of our proposal is the Laudato Si really hits it out of the park. It summarizes both the symptoms and the roots of our planetary crisis and points the way towards solutions and a vision for how the world can be different, essentially a vision for utopia. And what's missing from the Laudato Si is the step-by-step roadmap on how to get there. Our thesis is, let's bring together the collective intelligence and we can build that roadmap and then walk the path. Take the off-ramp from this highway to hell that we're on, this death spiral that we're on right now. Find the off-ramp, take the off-ramp, and get on this new path towards utopia. And so while we're waiting for that meeting on January 8th, we are going to be building, laying the foundation for and beginning to build the first community cafe here in Cleveland, permanent community cafe, to end hunger, unite humanity, and also convene collective intelligence and Laudato Si study groups and whatnot, all at the community cafe. So turn it into this amazing, community center as a first step. So we'll get into all that. With that, that's the end of our kind of quick couple-minute personal updates. Why don't we shift gears to Armando to give us the first agenda item, to lead the first agenda item, which is an update on the Berkeley climate emergency. The next topic will be Calgary updates, more on that from Miles. Next item will be more on the Ohio updates and what we're doing here. And then finally, AI questions from Adam. And the way this works, if you have something you want to say, either just raise your hand or type it into the chat box, and I'll be managing who's on the queue for talking next and whatnot. For now, take it away, Armando. Please kick us off and on the Berkeley climate emergency.
Hey y'all, so this is Armando Davila checking in from actually 2 blocks outside of Berkeley. A little backstory, 350 East Bay and myself and got together to end the climate mobilization, got together to write 2 resolutions that passed in Berkeley in June, endorsing a World War II scale mobilization to restore a safe climate. The city of Berkeley passed it, and then we'd written in a regional town hall that happened on August 24th. We were attempting to get the Bay Area governmental community on board with this mass mobilization ahead of the Global Climate Action Summit, but campaigns move slower than we would like. But we got, nonetheless, 100 people in the room from 8 of 9 Bay Area counties and pitched this idea of a World War II scale mobilization. And people were generally on board. There was a sense of crisis and curiosity and enthusiasm and positive rapport. But you may or may not know that legislative documents aren't necessarily the rallying call that our world needs right now. So we introduced the idea, and then since then it's been passed in the city of Richmond, who has a refinery in their borders, and a couple weeks ago it passed in the city of Oakland, which is significant because it's much larger than Berkeley. And our next cities are San Francisco and San Jose, and we're planning another regional summit that hopefully multiple cities will co-convene together. And the resolutions request regional coordination, and essentially, where we're at is, we're passing around these resolutions. So if folks have any contacts, pretty much in any city government, it's helpful. But some of our needs are, the resolution needs to evolve to include more of some kind of beefier legislative moves, because right now it's just a resolution. So we're kind of thinking through how, it could mandate all the commissions report back on the components of a mass mobilization in a city. We're thinking about, what is like budget, but what could the budget implications be? What are the cities like moves where they actually call on the regional agencies that they're part of? So the campaign, we kind of just like threw it together to influence the Global Climate Action Summit that's happening in San Francisco now that it's gotten some steam and has to evolve to be truly effective. But essentially the idea is out, and we're also in partnership with a initiative in Los Angeles called Mobilize LA, where Councilmember Paul Koretz and Naomi Klein and a coalition of folks launched this idea that the city of LA, Los Angeles, a huge city, would do this World War II scale mobilization. They're working on a climate emergency mobilization department that is in development, and there's like a coalition kind of holding and stewarding that. And so there is some like, the campaign is growing, the word's getting out there, but you know, it's still young and needs a lot of support. And I just sent an email today to some folks at the state, and had a meeting actually last week with Ken Alex from who's like Governor Brown's environmental advisor. So we're snaking like a vine through the networks, but to really kick this, I mean, I think a World War II scale mobilization is what's needed. I think the World War II analogy breaks down in some pretty important places. And I think in California, we're discovering that we're going to get our ass kicked pretty heavily unless we move. And even though the governor just did an executive order for 100% carbon neutral by 2045, my personal sense, I know the sense of this call is that we don't have till 2045 to reach 100%. And so one of the things that we're pushing for in the local organizing is that cities will transition by 2030 to be 100% carbon neutral. And that's a hard push here. And so we're doing the organizing to make it possible, but we could use a lot of help. And that's my check-in. Hopefully that was clear.
Yeah, no, really good, Armando. So I just have a question, which is, so you're definitely preaching to the choir here in terms of, you know, it's not just about reducing carbon emissions by 2045. You know, we need to refreeze the Arctic within the next, you know, 6 months, basically 8 months. We need to secure the Arctic because you know, and it's not just regional stuff. And I know you agree with us on this, Armando, but just to make the point publicly, you know, in addition to local and regional efforts to brace ourselves for climate change, we need to prepare for preventing the very worst disasters which would come if we lose the Arctic ice, say in the summer of 2019. You know, to quote the president of Finland, if we lose the Arctic, we lose the planet. You know, we would have such a massive additional heat load that we don't have right now by losing the Arctic ice, because we lose that mirror that reflects the sunlight back into space. We're talking about millions of square kilometers. We simply cannot afford to lose that mirror. Losing that mirror, that sunlight would just land into the dark, get absorbed by the dark blue Arctic Ocean.
Yeah. Turns out the study came out saying that the oceans are absorbing like twice as much heat as they thought originally, which is also terrifying. And actually one more update is that our resolution's going through the Sierra Club, actually. Their executive committee, I think that meeting happened this week or next week, so that local Sierra Club chapters can pick up the campaign. But I don't know if you have any connections to the Sierra Club where you could get this angle going, but.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, if you guys could use your channels that you've got through to invite the leadership of the Sierra Club to come to the Sierra Club dinner, right, on December 6th and participate in the after dinner discussion. Melissa and I will be there. And let's just get as many as people as we can to the Sierra Club dinner in Berkeley, December 6th. You know, reach out to us. Anyway,
I'll email you about that.
Pardon me?
I'll reach out about that.
That would be awesome, because this is the opportunity for it. It's a perfect opportunity to get Sierra Club leadership throughout the Bay to come together on this. And so anyway, I just wanted to congratulate you and your mom for the great leadership you guys are doing on this. And you know, it's what. You know, and just to comment that, you know, the declaration of an emergency is a crucial first step, but, you know, what do we do? You know, it's like we're trying to change the course of the whole planet. Just refreezing the Arctic alone is, you know, going to be a major, you know, engineering and financial and human resource international undertaking. You know, that's a big part of the whole World War II analogy, is we need to mobilize resources for this. But what between Los Angeles and the Bay Area, Armando, what is kind of the leading edge thinking in terms of, you know, what needs to be done both at a local and planetary scale, and how do we make this happen? I'm just curious, what's the conversation like in that regard?
You know, I'm only in the conversations that I'm in, so I think going into emergency mobilization mode is one leading edge. I know other groups have stronger language and orientation around just transition and just disaster recovery efforts, like the infrastructure that replaces the old infrastructure should all be 100% renewable. And they have, like, some of the groups have more lead on different elements. But yeah, I think this week is going to be the conversation changed with the IPCC reports and these fires. I'm hoping that, you know, there's going to be a huge embrace of this emergency mobilization frame. Because LA is also burned up. I mean, like,
Malibu.
it's a lot. It was the fires from a couple years ago that got the LA initiative rolling, and so I imagine. But I think, I mean, one of the leading edges that we're calling for is that everyone definitively transition right now. Like, that's just what we're trying to flip the mode into. But because of political dynamics and being a small ragtag crew, we actually need to get this orientation out further. And yeah, it's a little, like, even in the city of Berkeley, it's a little frustrating. Like, just territorialism is, like, inhibiting the city of Berkeley from getting, like, really understanding what the resolution says and coming behind it. So unfortunately, societal, like, social interpersonal power dynamics are always something we have to navigate. And I'm hoping, I talked to Governor Brown's advisor. I'm gonna send him an email today being like, so you're going to Poland probably, right? You want to just, like, have Governor Brown, like, pitch this World War scale mobilization at the next conference? Because I don't know what else y'all should be talking about at this point. Yeah.
One suggestion, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there because I've been doing a lot of work with Greenpeace recently, and Jamin and I, with my friend Lauren, we did this first Orca Living mural, and then we followed it up with petition letters and a really great cover letter to our governor, Jay Inslee, who sounds like he's really on board and coming more and more on board with the changes that need to happen, and he's established this task force to look into what's happening to the orcas in the Salish Sea. And I'm just wondering, Armando, if that might be an interesting thing for you guys to do, is actually reach out to other states, like our state, Oregon State, and start contacting these groups who are also part of this movement and say, let's get together and let's do this together. And you know, you guys are role modeling this. Our state's role modeling other stuff. So I would say Greenpeace is a good one for you. Jay Inslee would be a good one. Maria Cantwell in our state. We could maybe within the group think of other people, like we could start doing this collective that Jamin's been pushing for, collective consciousness, you know, kind of spinning this web together and getting connected so you're not all alone.
Yeah, thank you. Do you mind just sending me an email with those contacts in there?
Yeah, I will definitely do that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Armando, this is Jamie. Hi, first time we met. What you're doing is really great. So what I came to my mind while I was listening to you is my background is government, state, federal, local. That's my specialty, what I've worked my entire life. And here's something that we've all been missing. You guys, listen, this is critical, like a neuron fired, okay? Here's the model, Armando, okay? Everybody, listen to this. We're looking at our TVs for the first time in all of our lives and seeing firemen, fire personnel, emptying out cars with people and all their belongings and cats and dogs that couldn't drive fast enough out, and people are burning to death in their cars. This is the first time I've seen that. Maybe one body here, one body there. We're talking about probably 200 or more people that are missing because their cars caught on fire while they were driving. So as grotesque as that is, who are the people that are dealing with that? We have a climate 9/11 here, and the firemen, there's Cleveland firemen, there's Geauga County, there's firemen from all over that are on these task forces that are there now losing the battle. So here's what came to my mind. Contact your local EMA, Emergency Management Agency. There's 3,000 counties in the United States. There's 3,000 EMAs. The EMAs are run by the local fire chiefs, the sheriffs, the police. They're designed to get together and practice for whatever may happen. Wildfires, anthrax, to tsunamis. So the EMAs, the emergency management agencies in each county, get federal funding and state and local funding in order to prepare for the bad stuff that's happening. And we can talk to those people and say, can you give us a snapshot of the last 20 years based on population? How much increase has there been in bad stuff? And of the bad stuff, is there anything you could say about like fires and tsunamis that might be related to global warming? Because nobody likes policemen. Nobody likes hippy dippy Greenpeace. Nobody likes all the feel good tree huggers. But you know who everybody likes? Firemen. Everybody loves firemen. They show up, they save your cat. And the firemen, they're on the first lines and no one's asking them. Even they're catching on fire. The firemen are burning last year. We lost a whole platoon of guys that couldn't get out of the fire. And if we can somehow tap into that first responder, oh my God, praise America. Even if there's no way our firefighters aren't aware that they're being called to do more in worse places with more problems and less money. And if we can take the money we're giving to the EMAs, and again, it's a big political piece of apple to bite, but if we could turn that amount of money in putting fingers in the dikes of all these fires while losing people in their cars and firemen dying, and each fire is worse than the next. 3 weeks ago, there was the whatever fire named after a flower. Now there's this fire. It's the worst in the history. It just keeps happening, and we're watching fellow humans burning up in their cars, and then we go, what time's the Price is Right come on? No one's paying attention, okay? So if we can somehow get the fire people, the EMAs and the fire chiefs, I'm going to contact the National EMA Association, the National Firefighters Association. I'm going to do that this week, and I'm going to follow up with you with an email. Look up whatever county you're in, the EMA, and start asking them questions about their resources. They'll be glad to tell you how much money they don't have to solve these problems and how much the need is increased. And that's the exact place to say, why has the need increased? Okay, your budget for whatever county you're in. What county are you in? LA?
Alameda.
Alameda. So let's say Alameda County's Emergency Management Agency's budget is $11 million. I'm sure it's 10 times that. It's $11 million. Last year was $9 million. They keep going back to the county commissioners and the board of revision supervisors and all that, asking for more money based on it was worse last year and we predict it getting worse this year. And instead of just trying to find more money for more hoses and more Motel 6s for out-of-town firemen, why don't we start to address the problem at a carbon neutral level so we can have less firemen flying around the country and less people burning up in cars? It's a natural way to turn things around. But if the firemen are on board, which I think they are, I haven't looked into this, but I'm going to look into it. I think that firemen and women are seeing that they are overtaxed on natural crises, and they have to have a statement or a feeling about that. And if they feel like we feel that it must be some kind of climate change, forget about who caused it. Let's say the squirrels caused it, okay? Who cares why there's too much carbon? There's too much carbon, whether you drive a Prius or a Hummer. It doesn't make a difference. We still have the problem. People are dying in their cars on fire. So if we can somehow use the power of the government against itself, okay? They keep stats on what they're spending at the local level for emergencies and what other agencies are donating in. Everybody knows what they've chipped in. And why does it keep going up? That's the magic question. Because the answer is going to be something's wrong. And once we get them to admit that, then it's not the World Wildlife Federation or Greenpeace or the Sierra Club or the tree huggers. It's the firemen. And who's going to say that all the firemen are wrong? They're the only ones digging the ditches in the fire. They know how many ditches. Last year I dug weeks worth of ditches. This year, you know, these local fire chiefs in every community are rotating people in and out to other parts of the country. We got a ton in Cleveland that are out your way. That means we're shorthanded here. So the fires in their impact our ready responsiveness here and our EMA budgets here. And we're all chipping in, but no one's asking why aren't these dots connected? Because if you think about it, like I just did, it's the most natural thing to do is let's find out what the firemen think. because the fireman can't possibly think, no, this is just random. This is just, oh, this is normal. But when my dad was a fireman, he used to do this all the time too. Wrong, never happened. Okay? So that's my idea, Armando. And I know I talk too much, but okay, I'm out.
Oh.
That's right. After Armando comments, I just want to point out Adam's been waiting patiently, so let's respect the queue. So if you want to talk, just let me know. If you're in Ohio, let Jamin know. I'll add you to the queue. If you're not in Ohio, either raise your hand or just type in your name like Adam did correctly. But I'll let Armando respond, and then Adam's up next.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had a similar insight as well, but we haven't followed up with this solid campaign strategy. I have one contact in the San Francisco, a firefighter, and he said that surprisingly, the firefighters are not, like, in his experience, they haven't been super receptive to the whole climate change conversation. So I don't know if there's like an overlay or a contradiction or, with like, I don't know, the Republican right-wing framework, narrative, worldview, political dynamics, and the perceived like law and order privileging of like firefighters and police. So like the strategic alignments there as like one of the inhibitors of firefighters coming out front. But I know there has been some marketing that they've been doing around climate change in the last 6 months. So yeah, I definitely will pitch that our campaign pivot to do a strong push on aligning with firefighters. That's a great idea.
Awesome. Good stuff. Adam, you're up next. Take it away.
Okay. Armando, I really like the idea of doing a World War II scale mobilization. And I think that's exactly what we need to do. And I was wondering, are you on my email list, or do you get my, I send out emails telling about my writings and YouTube postings. I'm just wondering.
I don't believe so, but we can get at it.
So
I can connect you guys if you both give me your consent.
I'll drop it in the chat. Is that also part of the recording, or is it not?
We're live.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're recording, but I'll be happy to connect you guys. Let me make a note of that.
Okay, that'd be awesome, because I'd like to speak with you some more, Armando. But I think this World War II mobilization is exactly what we need. We need everybody to start, join together. But the way I see it was we need some kind of organization. Like when you build a huge project, say you're building a wastewater treatment plant. Well, there's just so many facets to building it, or a high skyscraper or something, that you really have to have a schedule, and you have to be, figure out, so you get a hold of the fire department here, and you do this there, and all of it, works together to build the ultimate build, which is the treatment plant or the skyscraper or whatever. But you don't really get very far if you don't have a plan. And so that's where artificial intelligence comes into play, that I think, and we can address more of that later. But I just wanted to say, I think that we really need a plan. Thanks.
Yeah, and since no one else is in the queue, I'll just jump in. That the whole, our whole thesis around radical collective intelligence is precisely to build such a plan. And Adam, I'm really glad you mentioned all the complexity. Just to make one wastewater treatment plant is phenomenally complex. To solve the climate crisis, given all the inertia in the economy and consumerism and politics and organized crime and media and everything else, to transform all that is borderline unthinkably complex. We're basically talking about transforming and reconfiguring all of life on Earth and all facets of life on Earth. And so that is why we put forth as our thesis that we need to get collective intelligence built out and operational so we can have this massively higher form of intelligence, this massively multidimensional form of intelligence where you have expertise from people from all over the world and millions of people, eventually, hundreds of millions of people. We really need all hands on deck. So I just wanted to comment that on top of the complexity hypothesis, that this is a very complex problem to solve. I would say theory, not hypothesis. It's pretty well established. This is going to be phenomenally complex. Whatever we have to do, it's going to be complex. So we got to get all hands on deck and all minds on deck through collective intelligence. Adam mentions AI. I think, having spoken with Adam quite a bit about this, I think we sometimes use AI and collective intelligence interchangeably. RCI, Radical Collective Intelligence, which is what we're promoting, is a mashup between artificial intelligence and collective human intelligence. So we really think we need the best of both of those worlds to come up with the plan.
Can I just add something?
Please, please.
So the RCI, or the collective intelligence, well, as far as the World War II scale of mobilization, I think that should be applied to the collective intelligence that Jamin's talking about, because then that can build our plans. That can build the set of plans to achieve the ultimate goal, which is the sustainment of human life on Earth. If we by default, if we save our lives, we're going to save all the other life too, and that gives us the incentive to really work for it. That's all I want to say.
Very good. All righty. Well, that's been an awesome topic. Of course, we can come back to it. Armando, are we done with, for the moment, with the Berkeley Climate Emergency update and related conversation? Or was there more you wanted to add before we move on to the next topic?
The only things I'll add is that the idea is getting out there, and look out for Extinction Rebellion. There's some, there's like a protest, direct action movement happening in the United Kingdom right now. The fact that it's called Extinction Rebellion is instructive, and they're demanding that the United Kingdom go carbon neutral by 2025, and they're in the process of escalating. And I heard it just bounced over to Vancouver, but this whole thing's going to evolve. So yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, really.
Alessandra Cortez, that young woman in New York, the congresswoman who just got elected, she's been picking up the talking points. So the idea is getting out there, but it needs more lifting. Yeah, that's all.
Awesome. Yeah, really good point about the Extinction Rebellion in the UK. So, and this is really going to be a thing about all of these movements, Bay Area, UK, etc., all coming together. So exciting, exciting stuff. And speaking of movements in different places, let's now shift to our next topic, and Calgary. And Miles, you want to lead us off on that one, please?
Okay, thank you. And I will segue off of Armando to begin with thanking him for bringing the idea of the importance of working with city councils to this table. Before I go any further, though, I always try to remember to acknowledge that I live on an indigenous land. I'm on the traditional territory of the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, as well as the Stoney Nakoda and Tsuut'ina nations, and the Métis Nation, Region 3. So I don't want to get too granular with respect to the initiative I'm involved with right now, which is related to the bid that Calgary's considering for the 2026 Winter Olympics. But what I want to emphasize is the idea of cross-pollination. Cross-pollination, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And Melissa, you brought this up last time, and I pick up on that. This is what we're doing. We're sharing these ideas. Armando talking about what you can do on a city council can be so important. He talked about how cities down there are doing things to declare climate emergencies, to prepare and to prevent or mitigate at least the consequences of our climate crisis. So, and I'm absorbing that. because here in this city, they're not awake at all. To bid on these 2026 Olympics, to spend several billions of dollars, which today, in light of what's happened in California in just a matter of a few days, is not that much, because I did a quick calculation. 7,500 structures destroyed in that city of Paradise, California. If they were worth $200,000 each, that's 1.4 billion right there, just in structures. So, billions have gone up in smoke in the past 3 days down there in California. And it's just huge when you think about it. And that's not even contemplating the tragedy of human loss. So anyway, that's where I'm saying what I'm talking about is almost trivial, but it's a city that I think is illustrative of what we're up against. This bid process is financed by the city of Calgary with a $30 million budget. They have $30 million to wage a psychological operation whereby the real facts, which if you drill deep enough, the city does have on their websites, such as Olympic Games expect to have always cost overruns and debt, and that even the emotional effect of hosting these games is gone after 1 year. Any social account is also gone, and people are just left with debt. So anyway, I took this globe because, again, cross-pollinization. Jamin, one of the previous meetings, he said, well, yeah, the thing to ask is, will there be snow for these 2026 Olympics? And that's exactly the question I was wanting to ask at this event. But as I said, let's not go talk to the guy holding a globe, because that's not normal. But a gentleman did come up to me and ask, what's with the globe? And I'm thinking, Jamie, I wouldn't be surprised this guy was perhaps a plainclothes security officer. Because I asked him, so what's your connection with the counselor? And he said, oh, I'm just a friend of him. He seemed to be evasive. But anyway, I told him, I said, the globe with 2 layers of saran wrap represents, to scale, approximately, the finite atmosphere that we have. So take a basketball, apparently put 2 layers of saran wrap on it, you're going to get a sense of how limited our atmosphere is. So cross-pollinization, that's what we benefit here from. And we can leverage our shared ideas, this radical collective intelligence, as we're always doing. One of the things that I want to, and give me the warning sign, I don't want to be pedantic. My wife has told me, you sometimes are pedantic. I had to look up the word.
No, you're doing great, Miles.
Okay. So
Mike just tells me to shut up.
There you go. I like that approach. So anyway, one of the things, cross-pollinization, not only did I take that National Geographic globe, which National Geographic is an amazing institution of your United States of America, but I also had a space shuttle model, so that perhaps make me wonder even more about, well, who's this character here at this town hall with this space shuttle as well as a globe. But the idea there is I've been tweeting out in response to people about these Olympics, and I'm saying, hello, people. We are the taxpayers. We, the taxpayers, are the passengers who will be flown into space on this ship, the Winter Olympics, and we have only 2 weeks to assess this. Today is the actual vote. I voted already. But I said, like the failure of the Space Shuttle flight's Challenger in Columbia. Now, before I go any further, I just want to say, this is a spectacular piece of engineering, ingenuity, courage, and so many positive things. I can't overemphasize what your United States space program has accomplished for the world at great risk. But Challenger and Columbia, we won't totally appreciate unless we take time to reflect on what went wrong on those two flights. So briefly, and I use this to talk to the people of my city with respect to why are we spending billions on games when we're in a climate crisis? But we must ask, and I'm quoting from General Harold Gaiman and others of the Columbia Accident Investigation Board. We must ask, quote, were discussions conducted in the hallways? Have we requested detailed information? Have decisions been based on flawed thinking, such as it didn't hurt me yesterday, it won't hurt me today? And will we be saying the organization was flawed, couldn't even, and this is General or Admiral Gaiman, he said couldn't even run a bus line with such poor communication and the casual risk assessments that were being done at that time in the space shuttle program. So powerful things for us to build upon, right? When we're talking to people about where are we now and what are we doing and how we're doing it. We have a social crisis as much as a climate crisis. Now, cross-pollination, one of the things that I've tremendously benefited from is another creation of your United States, and that's the Toastmasters program. Toastmasters International, they produce this leadership and communication program in multiple languages now around the world. I've been a member since 1990 on and off. I'm not a very diligent person, so I haven't gone up the ladder that much. But anyway, I did one of their little studies or one of their little projects that they now have in their new program, and it evaluated my leadership style. My two top leadership styles are the democratic leadership style, and then secondly, the altruistic leadership style. And curiously, in both of these, one of the attributes is it says these styles of leadership are ineffective when time is limited or if team members do not have the knowledge or expertise to make quality contributions. And that was like, oh my, that is such a huge light bulb going off. That is the fundamental issue we face. It doesn't matter where you go, there's never enough time. So what I would like to put on the table is we don't need to reinvent anything other than bringing it all together with this RCI, Radical Collective Intelligence Platform. We could take, and this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to create Toastmasters clubs that basically run 24 hours a day by postal code. So in other words, people come, now it's going to be like a corporate club. It has specific objectives and values that are to be achieved. Like a corporation, an oil company can have a Toastmasters club and they can say that, you'll use this to further your presentations to this oil company. Well, we could use this to further the conversations of the climate crisis and what we have to do to respond. And then that brings people together face to face in their communities, and you link them up with the Radical Collective Intelligence. And there's so many tools. They've already got their own programs, and software. So anyway, that's a summary of what I call, or I, extrapolated on, which was presented, the idea of cross-pollination. So with that, I will conclude or take any questions.
Awesome, Miles. Okay, we got two people on the queue. First, Melissa, followed by Jamin. Signal if you want to get in the queue. Take it away, sweetie.
Thanks,
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Miles. I just feel so inspired hearing your relentless approach to everything that you're doing, and taking those risks. And I know what that's like to turn up and be that solo person with my little orca or you with your globe, and then not answering, calling on you when your hand is up. And I just wanted to first thank you for being courageous in doing that. And then the other thing I wanted to say is we have to get bigger balls about it. So if they don't answer, you actually stand up and interrupt, which I'm going to start doing myself. And the other thing is not being alone. Jamin and I saw a talk of an Italian artist who actually lives in Florida. She's American, Italian-American. Alessandra, I'm sorry, I don't remember her last name, but I'll find it for the group. And what she's been doing is she does activism, artful activist projects where she'll create a project. She'll then put a call out to people to come and hold her signs, and it's just taken off. So what I'm thinking for you or for myself or any of us who want to be part of this artful activism, because that's what you're doing as well, is actually creating these props and then putting a call out to people so you're not alone, because there is something about power in numbers. When there a number of people turn up, they can't ignore that. So I just wanted to put that forward to you. And like, I would be happy, like if we had some advance notice, to even like creatively put together props for you and send them off to you. Or I don't know, we could talk about, you know, how that gets developed back and forth between California and Calgary and wherever, Ohio and Seattle and Whidbey Island. But I just wanted to put that forward to you as a possibility, because I think there's this burnout that can happen if it's not fun, if it's not creative, if we're not cross-pollinating, and if we're not kind of having each other's backs, you know, for support through this really tough time of getting other people engaged and on board. So yeah, just putting that forward. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sweetie. And so I'm up next. I wanted to comment on what Miles was saying about how the democratic process, basically the gist I got of that is that the democratic process only works if there's enough time for deliberation, right? Discussion and whatnot. Now, with these climate crises happening faster and faster, you can imagine wildfires on a scale, you know, dozens of times greater than what we're seeing right now today, just really horrific stuff, as well as hurricanes, tsunamis, floods, you know, mass dyings, extinctions, etc. You know, and then say, well, you know, where is there going to be time for us to really, you know, cope with these? And what I'm going to say may sound a little fantastic and unrealistic at first, but I actually believe it to be the case, which is that we can actually create time using a platform such as Radical Collective Intelligence. Why? Because instead of there just being one big room with, you know, a few hundred people and only so much time, and people can only talk for, you know, 1 minute. We've all been at, you know, city council meetings where people only have 1 minute at the microphone to make their point, and zero opportunity for back and forth in that context. With Radical Collective Intelligence, we break out into ultimately a limitless number of breakout rooms, topic by topic. And what artificial intelligence helps us with, it helps us in a number of ways. Number one, it transcribes what is said in each breakout room into text, right? That text is then indexed and put into a database, much like, you know, similar to Google's search index database. And then whenever people comment on something or have a question about something, the AI bot that's listening into that meeting can then search that database and say, well, you know, down the hall, you know, in this other breakout room, they're talking about exactly that topic, and they've got an answer to your question, and blah, here it is. Just put it up on the screen automatically. So this is a way for essentially a lot more people to be talking in parallel on these virtually limitless breakout rooms, and then using the artificial intelligence to connect people together. So as soon as you finish the meeting that you're on, maybe there's a list of 3 follow-up items or 3 follow-up conversations with people from other breakout rooms, and the AI can actually help to automatically connect us, kind of like, you know, a massive switchboard operation that basically says, okay, you need to talk to you, and boom, you're both free, so bam, talk. And here's the topic. Here's what you need to talk about. Here, I'm going to recap the question from this one meeting 2 hours ago, and recap the answer from this other meeting a half an hour ago. Boom, boom, talk. And we're listening, and we're recording, and we're going to index what you said, right? So here's how we kind of put the puzzle pieces together. or weave the threads together into this tapestry of complex, interconnected solutions that we need to come up with. Does that all make sense? All right. Since no one else is in the queue, I'll kick it back to you, Miles. What say you?
Absolutely, Jamin. Totally agree with that. That's what we need. And, you know, I think by doing our grassroots gatherings whenever and wherever we can, and I'll pick up on what Melissa said, to, you know, bring people on board. That's my next step. I've been doing this visualization for quite a while, and it's in a Canadian context, which won't always necessarily make sense to you, but you know, it is, you know, what I'm doing will no doubt benefit you, and you've already benefited me, as I've explained. And if we can get people to start coming together and, you know, as Melissa said, gathering them and just getting some numbers together, we start becoming a force to reckon. My minister of the Alberta legislature, who I know personally, he's told me, you know, if he gets a letter from some constituent complaining about whatever, you know, potholes, let's say, he doesn't deal with potholes, but let's use it as an example. It basically gets filed in the waste paper basket. But if he has 20,000, or even not even 20,000, but even any organized group of people sending him a letter, he listens. Yeah, he's a politician. So I'll see what this idea of leveraging Toastmasters clubs for people who would get on board to be focused on climate crisis might lead to. And then they put pressure on the city for the city to start allocating money. So, for example, somehow the powers that be seem to have no problem getting a $30 million budget to put together a bid for this Winter Olympics. And they just, in the last week, because today's the vote day, they just were lambasting everybody with emotional propaganda, like, oh, you know, it'll be such a feel-good event, 2 weeks for billions of dollars. No, that was fine years ago, but we now live in a new reality. But the point is, money just falls into some people's laps, and that's what we need to do. We need to lobby so that, you know, $30 million is allocated to research and development of radical collective intelligence. You know, it's as a priority over other spending. I think we can do that if we get people connected. Okay, so I'll go on mute.
All right, very good stuff. Well, no one's in the queue, so that was an excellent segment there, Miles, and in fact, a great segue to the next topic, which is Ohio Updates, which is all about how do we get, you know, 30 million bucks-ish budget to actually build out radical collective intelligence, where now we are appealing to the Catholic Church and the entire community of restaurateurs through two separate but very parallel projects. So Jamie, I'll ask you to maybe lead the conversation on the Catholic Church, and then I can, you know, give a summary on community cafes. What do you think about that?
I'm ready.
Okay, so why don't you lead on Catholic Church? Put yourself in the queue if you have questions. So Jamie will kick it off with Catholic Church update. I'll then follow with Community Cafe update and how the two are related, and we'll kick off the discussion from there.
Okay. All right, you guys. So we've created our working group here in Cleveland. The working group is here, and everybody also is welcome to join, email suggestions in any capacity, whatever you might have to suggest. What we're attempting to do, and in fact, we're going to do, is we have a meeting with the Vicar General, who's the chief in-house counsel for the bishop in Cleveland. So he's the number 2 guy. He's the bishop's lawyer. So obviously he's pretty important in the scheme of things. So we have secured an invitation to a meeting with that individual in 2 months, just about 2 months away. The purpose of that meeting is very, very simple. Everything that everybody here has discussed and the walls we keep hitting, whether it's Armando in Berkeley or Miles with the Globe, all of these things are symptomatic. I brought up my little spark of an idea about EMA and firefighters. So these are all, we're trying to get inside the mind of the right organization. And what occurred to me and Jamin, and probably a lot of people, but we're putting it in action, is let's take this to the organization that's best suited to not be ignored. And when we discovered that the Pope, Pope Francis, wrote an encyclical, which is basically an order to all the faithful, specifically all the Catholics. It's an incredible document. I strongly encourage you reading it. I found out last week that it's free on the Kindle app, which I've downloaded, and you can listen to it while you're driving around. And you have to listen to it 4 or 5 times. So it's 4 hours each time. So you break it up, you listen to it once a week, and then again following week, whatever. Take notes. The Pope wrote an amazing dissertation, essentially, of the problem that got us here, going back to the very beginning of man using tools to profiteering with those tools. So our thought is very simply, we're going to take this message back to the people that came up with one of the best identities, the Laudato Si, and we're going to ask them, we've waited 3.5 years, nothing has happened. The people are having meetings and coffee clutches, and they're doing all sorts of things to feel good about themselves for 1 hour on a Sunday, and then they go back to their Xbox and their NFL games, and they got to get a new iPhone right away. It's $1,000, no worries. We'll give the kids cereal, but we'll get these iPhones. So the consumerism has infected us like a disease, essentially like evil, if you will, which is what brings the Catholic Church into it. I'm Catholic, but I'm a broken Catholic. I've not done any good Catholic stuff in 20 years. So why the Catholic Church? Because there are Catholics everywhere, on every nuclear submarine, in every art studio. And those Catholics have friends that are Protestants and Jews and Muslims working together on their individual local projects together. Like Alejandro's working with people. He doesn't care of their race, creed, religion. He just wants to know, do you want to save the earth? So since the Pope wants to save the earth, that's what he said. So maybe we're going to go knock on the Pope's door and check with his soldiers, the bishops, and say, hey, guys, not for nothing, your boss said do something about it. So since you're too busy with the last scandal, it's kind of uncomfortable to talk about, but then wrapping that up, now is a good time to reach out to all the faithful, all religions included, which the Pope said, anybody, Druids, Wicca, non-believers. If you believe in Mother Earth, you think God's alive, okay, we got a shovel for you. Let's dig. So we're going to take this inside like a Trojan horse. And we're going to basically quietly demand, starting in Cleveland, which is one diocese out of thousands, to start the ball rolling on answering the Laudato Si. And I believe that the mission will be, the Catholic Church can't say no because their boss said yes. We will facilitate it on a non-paying, we're working for free, we're not making any money, we're losing money here, to get this built out in Cleveland as a model, and then send that model to Toledo, Dayton, Cincinnati, and then Charleston, West Virginia, and then Berkeley. And let's get all the Catholic churches and all the people in the pews that don't agree on anything during the week, Trump, Clinton, this, plastic, glass, this, everyone's got tribalism over everything. But they go to church and synagogue because they believe there is some type of higher power. So we're going to harness a higher power thinkers and say, talk to your Muslim neighbor, talk to your Jewish neighbor, talk to the Russian person, Orthodox next door. They don't have to be Catholic. They just have to not want hunger. They don't want to have the earth burning apart. Why am I watching CNN and the cars are on fire, driving in ditches full of people trying to save their kids? Why is that happening? And why isn't that outrageous? And the church isn't playing Nintendo. They see that that's outrageous. And their leader 3 years ago said, this is outrageous. So we're going to take it to the church and force them to put this thing in first gear. And first gear is a community cafes, which we're generating and creating to no cost to the church to show them if a couple of broken Catholics, these two bust outs, okay, if we can do this, what about these theologians that all they do is study and all the smart, super smart people in Rome? If these two flannel wearing bust outs can come up with something, I'll bet you they got some higher thinkings that would be glad to join us. And that's our theory. Now, we'll segue now to the community cafes.
Exactly. Great, Jamie. Thank you. So, but just first to emphasize, our first proposal that we submitted in writing that got us the meeting with the Vicar General called for that we put together study groups, parish by parish, all around the world.
Well, our proposal to put those study groups together actually came from the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, who wrote 3 years ago, 6 months after the encyclical. They said, we agree, and here's a document that anyone can print out to start these talking points in your parishes. And just a second. Oh, that's right. Nothing. No one's doing anything about it. So we're going to take that deadly silence and stick it right back at a bishop who is a member of the bishops of U.S. Catholic Bishops Group and say, remember that document you wrote? Yeah, the one that no one's ever printed out and never had a class on? Our class starts next week. Do you have a room for us? Because what I'm listening to when I want to hear the discussion group is crickets, and there's less of them because they're burning.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
Exactly.
Right on.
So discussion groups, study groups centered around the Laudato Si. The first order is everyone read the Laudato Si, ask questions. Hey, on paragraph 47, what does he mean by this? Great, let's talk about that. Great. Now and then we go from first gear, study groups, to second gear. Now let's start building out the roadmap for humanity to follow to fulfill on the vision of the Laudato Si. So that's the essence of our first proposal that got us the meeting on January 8th. Well, January 8th is almost a couple of months away. Hey, Jamie, what should we do in the meantime? Melissa, Sabrina, I know. Let's solve the first and most urgent problem identified in the Laudato Si, which is hunger. And just to make an analogy here, you know, like when you get on the airplane, they say, hey, if you're traveling with small children, put your oxygen mask on first, and then the kids' oxygen mask. Well, in a very similar spirit, we're saying let's put the oxygen mask on humanity first, and then humanity, now that we're all oxygenated, let's go and take care of Mother Earth, because there's a huge chunks of humanity that do not even have food in their belly to do any critical thinking or any work.
You can't do anything. How are you going to worry about climate change when you have to find enough water to boil in your pot that's dirty to boil the bugs and snakes that you have to catch, and there's less of those, so to feed your family? Yeah, the farmers and the poorest people, we tried this with Microsoft. We tried to reach and to get Satya Nadella, the president of Microsoft, and say, hey, your people are suffering more than anybody else's, but because he drinks the capitalism Kool-Aid, he can't open the door. You know who opened the door? The people that aren't drinking the capitalism Kool-Aid, the Catholics. They literally opened their door. And that we have to, the ones that are suffering the most are the ones that have no voice. No voice. You see us here? Happy Americans, beautiful artwork. We got a voice. We're going to use it. And it's going to be a choir singing in the St. John's Cathedral in Cleveland, because we're not leaving until I'm going to wear out the air, okay? Wear out the air until they say, Uncle, you can do it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So so today, as Jamie mentioned earlier, we left a note to the manager of this successful small family-owned restaurant chain to pass on our business cards and message to the owner of the chain that we'd like to have a meeting. So we're going to be inviting restaurateurs throughout Cleveland to join with us. These are the people who feed, you know, hundreds, thousands of people every day in their businesses. So they know how to feed people. So we're going to get the experts at feeding people together, and we're going to say, look, we're going to create the restaurant to end hunger in Cleveland, the first community cafe. we are thinking, here's our kind of our big idea, basically. Imagine we get 100 Cleveland restaurateurs together. We're calling this group the Cleveland 100, a group of 100 successful Cleveland restaurateurs to come together and say, okay, how are we going to end hunger in Cleveland, right? Let's put our collective intelligence together, right? Imagine, you know, each of these 100 restaurateurs kicks in $1,000 a month, right? And then we have a budget of $100,000 a month. With that, we can operate the first community cafe. What's the benefit to the restaurateurs? The immediate benefit is PR, public relations, media, word of mouth. Wow, these 100 badass restaurateurs are getting together and ending hunger. I'm going to go to their restaurant this Friday night, right? And thank them, right? People are going to be voting with their feet and voting with their wallets. And it's going to become a huge story. This is going to become a national story. This is going to be a feel-good story. So, you know, after you spend the first 20 minutes, you know, with updates on all the fires and the hurricanes and the droughts and the floods and the dying and the extinction, okay, you know, on the lighter side of the news, they're ending hunger in Cleveland. And these people who get together at every meal in Cleveland, these thousands of people who get together, after their meal, a lot of them are sticking around for a discussion group about how do we solve the rest of the world's problems? How do we prevent these forest fires? How do we refreeze the Arctic? How do we sequester carbon? How do we transform the economy? So we're using, you know, we're feeding everyone and then saying, hey, stick around for the collective intelligence. And all these great people with their bellies now full are going to say, okay, I can stick around for another hour to talk about solving the other problems. Some of the other problems we're going to solve are very immediate problems like shelter, solving the homelessness problem, and medical care, community health clinics. So we're going to start to build utopia right here in downtown Cleveland, Ohio, which we're walking distance from right now here in the Tremont neighborhood. So anyway, that's kind of the big update. And then so when we meet on January 8th with the Vicar General, we're going to say thank you very much for this meeting. While we were waiting for this meeting the last couple of months, we decided to put together a community cafe. What do you think? Here's where we're at. And here's where we want to go with this.
Do you guys like feeding hungry people? Because we think we can help.
Exactly. So, you know, an interesting factoid, since we're talking about ending hunger, Michael and I on Whidbey Island, before Melissa and I headed out here, we looked up online. The #1 food relief organization in the world. Anybody want to take a guess what it is? Just blurt it out if you have a guess.
I'd say it's got to be the Catholic Church.
Nope.
UNICEF. Red
Nope.
Cross.
Nope. It's the Hare Krishnas, and I'm not joking. The Krishna kitchens, right? They're feeding millions of people, serving millions of meals every day.
And look how small that group is.
And they've been doing it for a long time.
They've been doing it for a long time.
Look what a small organization that is of people that don't want to talk about it, don't want to pray about it, don't want to have big meetings. They just want to cook the beans and feed them, and they're doing it.
So we're going to say, Catholic Church, you're about 1,000 times bigger than them financially, if not 10,000. They're eating your lunch. You are the church of, you know, loaves and fishes, right? Let's feed everybody. Well, guess what? The Hare Krishnas are kicking your butts. You know, those people that don't look away, don't look at them, don't make eye contact. You know, just keep walking down the sidewalk. Yeah, they're kicking your butt. So we've got an opportunity here to really step into it and end world hunger, thereby uniting humanity around, yes, we can solve our problems, starting with the most basic, the most fundamental for humans, which is food, followed by shelter, followed by healthcare, followed by et cetera, et cetera. By the way, the community cafe has solved multiple problems at once. They are community centers, they are job boards, they are networking, Toastmasters, and collective intelligence, all rolled into one big healthy burrito. So anyway, we are absolutely on fire with this. We talked about this in Berkeley. I remember months ago we were, you know, having one of our roundtable discussions. Armando, you were there. Both your parents were there. I was very happy to see. And we were all talking, you know, Guy McPherson was there, you know, preaching, you know, gloom and doom. And we're all talking about, okay, what are we going to do about this, right? I put on the table there, hey, community cafe as a starting point. We got to start somewhere, right? Do we really think we're going to get a bunch of people to fly up to the Arctic and refreeze it on their own nickel? Forget about it. We need to start somewhere that people can agree to. Everyone can agree to ending hunger. So,
Can I say something?
please,
Yeah,
please.
So I also think, Jamin and Jamie, that there is something powerful about saying yes. You know, and I'm just thinking of what Armando was mentioning in Britain, what's happening, the Extinction Rebellion. So what they're saying is they're actually saying no to extinction, but they're actually saying yes. Yes, we can find solutions. Yes, we can bring change. And I think that's really important to remember that, you know, we need to continue empowering ourselves by this saying, yes, yes, we can do this. Yes, we're going to do this. Yes, we can save life on Earth. Yes, we can create community cafes. I just wanted to add that in there.
Beautiful. Love it. Yeah, and you know, and what a great way, you know, I was thinking about, you know, how do we get in touch with this, you know, UK Extinction Rebellion group? Oh, do we email them, Facebook them? No. Let them watch on the news. Let them read the Daily Mail in the UK and say, whoa, they're ending hunger in Cleveland. And they're saying this is the first step towards solving climate change.
Well, here's what's going to happen by osmosis, okay? The uptake model that the Catholics have essentially invented as the first organized government, essentially, that was participating in crushing First Nations people, but they were the first organized social structure that picked the kings and chose the white nations over the darker nations. And this is the history. I didn't make it up. It just is. So, you know, the Church of England versus the Church of Rome and all the stuff that goes back thousands of years that most conflicts were based on. And still, all the conflicts in the world today are religious-based, right? Right? Who has the oil? Well, the guy with the turban. Well, let's kill him. Well, you know, it's just one thing after another. So nothing's changed. And the battle lines have still been drawn the same way. But what's going to happen is we have success in feeding 100 people. They'll talk about that in the church bulletin in Cleveland. Then they'll talk about that in Akron. Then they'll talk about that in Canton. And pretty soon, they're all clamoring, going, we want this same project. How can we help? They're calling the diocese. Now, we made one call to the Vicar General's office. We're getting a meeting. After we meet with them in 2 months, they're going to be getting hundreds of calls. We want this too. We've got hungry people here. Oh, you have hungry people in Toledo? Oh, you have churches there? Wow. We know what to do about it. So it's going to just explode, pardon the pun, like wildfire, but faster and more ferocious than the wildfires that are destroying the world. It's going to get all the people of faithful together. And the Jews are going to say, hey, we're in. We've been trying to, hey, we've been talking about this for centuries. You know, and the Muslims, well, we have unleavened bread and the goat and the pig, but yeah, we like to feed the hungry. So, you know, and the Greeks and the Orthodox are all going to say, yeah, we love that. We love that. That's what we do. So, you know, when somebody in any nation, if I take anybody on this call and I pick you up and I put you in Botswana tomorrow, my big red face, hello, I'm in Botswana. I'm burning up like a potato chip. Where's the sunscreen? Within minutes of anybody being put in another nation, anywhere in the world, we look for someone that we can trust. They see we're foreign. They see we don't know what we're doing. And they say, what do they say? They say, come to my house, eat with me. They offer a meal right away. They say, you need a place to go. Let me come, my wife will cook. In fact, I will eat the vegetables, you will get the meat. That's what happens when you travel. But if you travel, you can go with a backpack and no money. And you can slop manure in a stall in Belgium and they'll give you a place to stay. And you can work your way over to Ireland and you could work in a bar for a couple months. They'll give you a place to stay upstairs. It's kind of dusty, but the music's good. And then you move on down to France and they say, well, you know, there's a lot of crap in the field. Why don't you pick that up for a while and you can stay in the barn and it's kind of shitty, but the cheese is great. Wait till you try the cheese. Okay. So we're going to harness what people do on an individual level. When the neighbors go, man, what's that smell? They come on over, man. I'm cooking ribs. one thing we can all give each other is a meal. And that's fundamental, and that's beside religion, okay? If the Jews and Palestinians would put down their rocks and make a fire ring out of them, they could share the same hummus, okay? But they're told not to. So we're going to try to get this movement into the hands of the believers, and specifically the Catholics, because they wrote the book on it, and no one read it. Me and Jamin read it. We're about the only two people that read it that aren't wearing the clergy garb. But that's about to change. That's about to change.
Beautiful. Awesome. All right. Well, what a great kickoff of the Ohio updates. Let's throw it open for questions and comments. No one's in the queue at the moment. Miles. I'm sorry. Miles is.
I've worn out the air.
Wait. I'm not sure for this or the previous one, but good. But in any case, take it away, Miles.
So right now, I want to pick up on what you're saying there, and I'd like to turn off my screen share if I can figure out how you do that. I started up. Oh, there we are. It's turned off now. You can see me?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool. Nice too. Jamie or Jamin, one of you said you're on fire for this idea of Laudato Si, and I am too. And I'm not Catholic. And in fact, as I've said in the past, I'm not Christian. But, that's a whole other story that someday I'll explain. I do that to be provocative, by the way.
We don't care. You're a believer.
That's it. That's right. Perfect. So, I just printed off Laudato Si, the study guide.
That's it.
And I'm going.
It's got one hit.
We got one hit.
There we go. And I'm headed to at 3:00 local time. I have to be at my reconciliation gathering meeting. Very quickly, it's part of this organization I belong to called Calgary Alliance. There are 24 organizations associated with this Calgary Alliance for Common Good. It's part of the industrial something organizations, foundations down in the United States. There's one in the Puget Sound area. So anyway, the agenda very quickly for today's meeting is after the ceremony, the Indigenous welcoming ceremony, a call to truth. The question is, what does it mean to build relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people? Laudato Si comes to mind, just as you were saying, Jamie. Okay, so I'm taking this today. What does the relationship building between Indigenous and non-Indigenous need to look like? Like Laudato Si.
Yeah.
Interfaith, right? We're going to have a young lady. Her name is Suzanne. She has an Indigenous name. I can't quite remember it, but something like the woman who brings the promise or something. We're going to have a Making Wolf event. This Making Wolf is a concept of the Indigenous people, and it'll be, I believe, being led by Chief Crowchild of the Tsuut'ina Nation, which is a neighbor to this city of Calgary. And they want to explore ideas this afternoon for this event. So, we're again back to the cross-pollination of ideas, right? I wouldn't be even, Laudato Si wouldn't be on my radar if it wasn't for you guys, right? So I'm now taking this and I'll manifest it and I'll tell them I'm working with people down in Cleveland who are meeting with the Vicar Council of that diocese. But one of the 24 faith organizations of this Calgary Alliance for the Common Good is the Roman Catholic Diocese of Calgary. There will very likely be a representative of that group there today. So now, just another thing to share, I'm going to screen share your idea of these community cafes. It's an opportunity to create with your community cafe to very inexpensively also invite people to say, for some of you, you might be interested in not only food, but food for the mind. Toastmasters costs about $7 a month. It is the most inexpensive communication and leadership program you will find anywhere. They already have a fabulous platform, which I'm just scrolling through here. A person for $7 a month gets access to these resources. They get access to this amazing Pathways program where everyone is encouraged to work at their own pace to improve their communication and leadership skill. So, you know, even the community cafe could say, we'll not only bring food to the table, we'll bring communication and leadership skill development to the table for those that want it. And before I wrap up, a website that goes along with this, which is free, is called Easy Speak. So you can set up meetings for events. It'll create your agenda for your meeting. You can create agendas, set up meetings of going months forward. It's a discussion forum. It's an emailing platform. It allows you to conduct surveys, view your progress through the program. Those are some of the tabs. Again, can you believe it? Free to Toastmasters, which again, $7 a month. I don't get paid by Toastmasters but
you get a free toaster.
But anyway, so just wanting to again cross-pollinate, because maybe I can get this community cafe idea coming up here too, to do the same thing. And of course, as I just said, I'm taking Laudato Si with me this afternoon. I'll go on mute.
You're next in the queue. Jamie's in the queue, and then followed by you.
Just quickly, Miles, if you could, if you find it that it's available, I'm sure that the diocese will have a representative there. It might be a low-level intern type person. See if you can't corner them and get their contact information for us, because I would love to just follow up and say, hey, you met my good friend Miles last week. We're preparing for the meeting in Cleveland. We'd like your input. And let's not just cross-pollinate, but then germinate. After pollination, we got to germinate.
Yeah, Miles, that's really interesting, great information. And we were talking about synchronicity last week, and I just want to say, here's synchronicity at play again. Exactly. I just tried to find this, but this talking wolf or speaking wolf that you brought up, Jamin and I brought a tie as a gift for Jamie, which has wolves all over it. And the wolf pack keep coming to my spirit. And I was like, what is this about? What is they trying to say to me, the wolf pack? And I know that the Tlingit tribe, so that's in British Columbia and America, as you know, but on the West Coast, they are wolves. So there might be some connection between where you are and the Tlingit people in British Columbia as this wolf pack converging to create this communal many, many things to bring good to the community. So
that is so cool that you have a wolf tie for Jamie. And I also have a Making Wolf video, an interview with Chief Crowchild of the Tsuut'ina Nation. So, again, synchronicity. This is all meant to be. And I will email that video of Chief Crowchild to everybody.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Hello.
All right. Well, this has been awesome. So we're going to need to wrap in about 10 minutes. So in that time, I want to turn it over to Adam to kick off the next and final agenda item, which you have some questions about AI, and then we can, move towards wrapping up from there with any final comments anyone would like to make. So Adam, please take it away.
Thanks. Since this Laudato Si thing came up, I've had to kind of regroup and so there are some other people. So I'm kind of approaching this whole thing from a different flank. And so there are other people that aren't drinking the capitalism Kool-Aid. And those are people that are in the environmental groups, people, and also other people like Michael Moore. And so I've been sending out letters to these groups, and you know, maybe you need 10,000 people or they won't read them. I'm writing them the best I can and putting in a jump drive with some additional information. But so this leads me to these questions, a couple of questions I have, because so my first question is, if we join together like a World War II movement type of movement, could a big you know, the right people be put together, you know, with the right laboratories and stuff, and build an AI? Could an AI model, or a collective intelligence model, radical collective intelligence even, be made on the internet that that could build a really complex model and build that set of plans that we're looking for? And the second part of my question is, if you know, this, your radical collective intelligence is about conversations, and one of the things I've been thinking about this platform is, if you had a place where people could go and talk to the artificial intelligence individually. I mean, artificial intelligence is a higher, like I say, it's a higher form of intelligence. Well, if people had a website where they could go to and they could talk one-on-one with the artificial intelligence, that gives a lot of incentive, because, like, you know, people won't listen to me. I mean, you know, you need 10,000 people to get that CEO or whoever to listen. But one person they're not going to listen to. But the artificial intelligence will listen and take your information and apply it to the model as appropriate. But we need to build this artificial intelligence out. And I think you said before, Jamin, that it's not really ready yet. Well, but what I'm asking is, if we made a collective World War II type of effort, could we put the labs together and make an artificial intelligence engine that could build this model? And so that's one question. The other one is, could the artificial intelligence talk to everybody in the world individually? Because it seems like that would be, you know, if that would be headline material. If we created an artificial or a platform where anybody can go there any time of the day or night, as long as they have internet access, and they can talk to the artificial intelligence about anything they want, and it's all you know, it's anonymous, and artificial intelligence takes in the information, and then all the other information too, and builds this set of plans for us that shows us the way out. The way I describe it is, it builds a model of the world that's extremely complex. And then there's one condition of the model. And the condition is that the end result of the model ends in the sustainment of mankind's life on Earth. So by doing that, then the model kicks back answers that tells us what we have to do to sustain, to achieve that goal. So it will tell us, you know, if we're out of line, it'll tell us we're out of line, or what we need to do to get on the right track. it'll give us that set of plans. And that's basically all I have to say. So I was curious about your answers there, Jamin. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So as to the first question, in terms of can we build out the laboratories to build out the AI? So for me, the broader question is, can we build out the laboratories to build out the entire RCI platform, Radical Collective Intelligence, which includes AI, but it's not limited to AI? The answer is absolutely yes. We've got the first small laboratory working on that. We've got a meeting in about half an hour to our weekly meeting on that topic. And part of the reason we're reaching out to the Catholic Church is so that the Catholic Church can get in the game along with us of building out the platform that we need, right? The Radical Collective Intelligence platform, which again includes AI, but it's not limited to AI. And, as to can AI talk to each person individually, that's a really interesting concept. I would say absolutely yes. There are already AI engines that are used as bots for talking with people, as wizards, and guiding people through processes and whatnot. And I think there's huge potential here for that to be sort of a killer app so that people can log in at any time and talk to the AI and just have a back and forth conversation and say, hey, I keep hearing about this cool RCI thing. How can I get involved? The AI might say, well, tell me about your skills and experiences and knowledge and education and blah, blah, blah as a starting point, and then have a back and forth conversation and tease out all the different areas in which that individual can contribute. And then the AI can say, great, thanks for all that great information. I'm going to suggest 20 different groups that you might want to plug into to participate in RCI for developing solutions, right? And one of those solutions is, of course, the global model that you allude to, Adam, for modeling all of planet Earth and all the different solutions that are being introduced and developed. So it all fits together, and it all fits together under one giant tent called RCI, Radical Collective Intelligence. And we're working hard on that. We've been pioneering that for the last few years with our limited resources, and now we're reaching to the biggest and most powerful institution on earth, the Catholic Church, to jump in with us and really help us get this built out. Jamie said there's Catholics on every nuclear submarine. There are Catholics at Microsoft, Catholics at Google, Catholics at Apple. There's brilliant Catholic programmers everywhere. So we need for Pope Francis to blow a big whistle and say, okay, attention, Catholic programmers, we need you now.
Yeah. You see the answer, Adam, to put your mind on what my approach started with, this Catholic thing. Me and Jamie had like an epiphany 5 weeks ago. The Catholic organization is like the fungi in the forest floor. It's got fungi feelers in every living organism in the woods. In the forest, fungus is king. It keeps most things alive. It's far more important than anybody understands. They're just beginning with the Genome Project to discover how incredibly valuable the roots of fungi are for the life sustainability of forests, which are the lungs of the planet. So the Catholics have a network much like the fungi, and instead of trying to force a branch of RCI or Jamin Shively or anybody else down someone's throat, we're just going to crack open the fungi mouthpiece and pour in the message, and it's going to systemically, we're going to push it along to get in every parish bulletin. So at Microsoft campus, when they wouldn't let us in except to use the bathroom, now they're going to come to work on Monday having read what's going on in Cleveland and Toledo, and we're going to say, ask your parish about this. Please bring this to your deacon. Why, what are they doing in Cleveland, and why aren't we doing it here? And all of a sudden, like almost in song, we're going to rise up with a hymnal saying, what are we doing for Mother Earth? And why isn't the Catholics leading? And when we talk to the vicar and the bishop, they're going to get it because they're in the most unique position in the world. And that is they've got the hungry flock of people that want to do good. And they've already got the entire system. They've been putting missionaries out in the darkest regions of South America for 800 years. Telling people how to have sex, how to eat. This is the way to do it. Build a church. I mean, they are in every community on the planet. okay? On the space station, there's a Bible in Catholics, okay? So we've infiltrated. Now, for what end? For this end. And we're going to find the programmers. We're going to find someone with a lot of money that wants to say, I'll pay for that. You know, there's a Catholic George Soros somewhere that would love to donate to whatever cause the church thinks is necessary. And I'm going to guess the church thinks it's necessary to save the planet. Because without the planet, there's no church, and the fungus dies. So that's the reason that we have this drive to get the church involved. And then we stumbled upon the Laudato Si, and Pope Francis himself realized he's got to Rome when they said, we got to have the other guy retire because he's not a firecracker. We need some changes. So Benedict retired, went to the back corner, he prays all day. And Francis gets there and he says, what's the most important thing I can do here? If I only do one thing, what can it be? The planet's in trouble. So I'm going to save the planet. And I'm going to tell my people, knowing he had the biggest organization of all. And that's why he wrote that to us. And we're going to answer it. I'm a little tiny fun guy right here in Cleveland.
I'm awesome.
Yeah,
We're just a bunch of fun guys.
All right. Well, the fun on this meeting is wrapping up because we got to get rolling. You guys got places to go, and I've got a place to go. So we're going to wrap up for now. Any last words? Squeeze them in quick. Just unmute.
Yeah, I got a quick last comment, and that is, you can bring in the Anglican Church on this one too, guys. And in fact, the entire British Commonwealth goes right along with Laudato Si. There's synergy here. Very quickly, this from the book Harmony by His Royal Highness Prince of Wales.
Love it.
He says, the first page of this book by Prince Charles, future king of the Commonwealth, quotes William Shakespeare, fine tongues in trees, books in running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. That's William Shakespeare. Next, the opening sentence in this book by Prince Charles, future king, quote, this is a call to revolution. The earth is under threat. It cannot cope with all that we demand of it. It is losing its balance, and we humans are causing this to happen. Revolution is a strong word, and I use it deliberately. So, this combined with your initiative, Laudato Si, there's no stopping it.
Let's bring a copy of that book to the January 8th meeting.
Yes, and here's the thing, Miles. Miles, you're just on fire.
Yeah.
Please just. Who is the leader? Just let me think. I cut out a lot of history class in high school because I couldn't think, so I cut classes and chased girls. But I do remember this. Who is the leader of the Protestant church? Just a second.
Well,
the person sitting on the throne leads the Protestants. That's right. The king or queen.
Yeah. Queen Elizabeth is the head of the Anglican Church.
That's right.
Boom. Now we get Catholics and Protestants.
Boom. Breaking bread for
right. Dalai Lama, Osama bin Laden.
Dude,
let's get them all together.
Miles, meritorious work, everybody. But I'm getting that book, ordering that book today. That's going with us to our meeting.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. Well, what a brilliant. I want to thank each and everyone individually. Jamie, Melissa, Sabrina, Jamin, Adam, Armando, and Miles. And thank you all for watching. And we'll look forward to seeing you all in a week for the next one. The next social club at the end of the world.
Thank you, Jamin.
Thank you.
Thanks,
so
everybody.
Much.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. See you all next time. Great work, everyone. Hawa. Hawa.